Hello, hello, you gorgeous human being. It is Susie Ashworth here, and you are listening to the Infinite Receiving podcast. And I am excited. I got a juicy, juicy, juicy one for you today. I mean, if you are not watching this on YouTube, you're going to be missing the fact that my gorgeous guest, Natasha De Grunwald, is just giving a cheeky little impish smile as I talk about juiciness, which I am sure as this conversation unfolds, we will get to speak a lot more about. Natasha is an old client. She is a friend and also an incredible international breathwork facilitator. She is a trauma and somatic healing expert. What she doesn't know about the body that she has been working with over the last, I want to say 500 years, but that would age you unfairly. But I think it's around 25, 30 years, is not worth knowing. And I think what is quite remarkable about her story is that much of the knowledge and wisdom that she holds around our bodies as living beings comes from the fact that she loves to cut up a cadaver. So, without any further ado, let me introduce Natasha. Hey, how you doing?
Hi, I love that. Made me laugh. Thanks for a lovely introduction. I'm really good, actually. Yeah, I'm really good. It's been so much going on for everyone, hasn't there? But I'm actually keeping myself in a really good place and taking some levels of care for myself, although I am not eating well at the moment. I'm not making time for good nourishment, but I decided today that was going to have to change.
Good.
Yeah.
I am curious, when did you make the decision to give honest answers to when people ask you, how are you doing?
Hmm. I don't know if it ever was a decision, but it was definitely something that I just don't like all the superficial chit chat. I'd rather just either people like me or don't like me and try and just be true to myself as much as I can these days. Life's too short to just be pleasing people all the time. So, yeah.
Why do you think so many people pick the alternative to giving the honest answer?
Hmm. I think we are so taught to what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and also that idea that people don't want the real answer. Like people don't want to hear, "Oh, actually, I feel dreadful at the moment, and I'm going through grief," or actually, I just had an incredible orgasm and I'm feeling like on top of the world. People just want to hear, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine," and keep it at a sort of level that doesn't bring up any emotion or anything. And I say people, but actually, more and more in my world, I don't. I have connections with people who do want the real answer and they do want the human mess. So I'm happy that those are the sort of communities I move in. But I think we've just been taught like what's keep it kind of on the lowdown, what we're actually feeling.
I think we've been talking for, okay, it's under 4 minutes, and you have managed to work the word orgasm into your answer.
You saw that, did you? You heard that, did you?
Congratulations.
It was quick work.
I absolutely agree that not only do we make up stories about people's capacity to hear our truths, but I think there probably is some truth in it that for some people, they are holding so much inside and suppressing and trying to keep it together that somebody actually giving them an honest answer, whether it's a high or a low, can be massively activating in a negative way.
Mm.
And I am really curious just to hear you talk about, like, what does that mean for the body. Like feelings and emotions have become such an important part of my work, I would say over the last 5 years, especially 4 or 5 years, and it's just got deeper and deeper and deeper. I feel like this is so much of that is rooted in everything that you've always done, actually. Does that feel
Mm.
true or not so much?
Mm. Yeah, I think so. And I think, first of all, I have more awareness about not taking responsibility for other people's realities so much anymore. So I'd rather just answer with what my reality is and
Mm.
trust that the person I'm talking to can handle it. And if they can't handle it and it triggers them, it's not like I go out of my way to trigger people. I'm very aware and have a lot of integrity, but I also, I'm going to trust people that they can take how they receive me, take responsibility for how they receive me. That's not my responsibility, and that's important, because I think too much we are taking inappropriate responsibility for people that we actually have no idea about, and then disempower them anyway.
Wow.
So that's
Well, I know that's
yeah.
only one point, but I think that that's a really important part. Taking on irresponsible, oh no, what were the words that you used?
Inappropriate
Inappropriate.
responsibility.
Yeah,
Mm,
inappropriate responsibility. Can you talk to me about
mm,
that? Because I think
mm,
that that is huge in the coaching world, actually,
mm.
nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think with cancel culture and the fear of saying the wrong thing, I think that inappropriate responsibility definitely plays a big part in
Mm,
keeping people censoring themselves. So I would love to
mm.
hear what is appropriate responsibility versus inappropriate responsibility.
Well, we're not really responsible for anyone other than ourselves, and if we're parents or something, maybe we obviously have a responsibility to raise our kids the best we can and look after them, and also take care of people around us, but not at the detriment to taking responsibility for ourselves, and not in a way that disempowers people. Because I think people have to learn where their compass is set and be attuned to that. And of course, it's the body that tells us that, not the mind. But well, in my belief. But yeah. So I think what is inappropriate responsibility is putting other people first and thinking about what is going on for someone else, and taking some sort of, yeah, looking after people before looking after ourselves. I think it shows up a lot in um, people pleasing, trying to make everything all right for everybody all the time, and forgetting about where we are, and not listening to ourselves, and thinking we understand what is going on for someone when we actually really don't most of the time. People are very good at wearing masks. Um, yeah, just, I mean, I suppose if I'm thinking about like sexually as well, taking responsibility for what someone might want or not want, and not giving them the opportunity to, and not sort of creating a space where people have consent and can like take responsibility for their boundaries. I mean, it kind of is insipid, really, isn't it, when we start thinking about it? It's very much to do with boundaries, I think, and an alignment to ourselves. Yeah.
Why does it feel quite controversial? I don't know whether it feels controversial for you to say, but certainly for me to hear, even though I agree with absolutely every single word,
Mm.
it's like the voice in my head says, yeah, but what about that being selfish? Like, what,
Mm.
and contextually having decided that being selfish is wrong and bad.
Yeah, I mean, selfish is such a judgmental word, when really what we're looking at with selfish is the self, and that really should be a priority, shouldn't it? Because any time we're not connecting to ourselves and what we need and where we're at and how we feel, and then we're sort of outside of ourselves, and that's where we get really lost and really hurt. I mean, every time in my life I've put myself outside of myself to think about what someone else wants, oh, it's over and above what I want. That's the bit where it goes wrong, because of
Yeah.
course I'm going to care about what other people want around me. I'm a kind person, but when it's over and above what's right for me, then that
Mm.
is not healthy. And I don't think that's selfish. That's looking after myself. And that's basically, who else is going to look after me other than me? If I'm not looking
Yeah.
after me, then I'm in trouble. And
Yeah.
I've been there, you know. Yeah.
I think there's a really interesting part of this conversation around trusting everybody's process as well. Because you
Mm,
said that I get to trust that everybody can choose to take personal responsibility. And if somebody gets triggered, they need to be able to find their own compass. And I think that there's another level, and I think that this is particularly true for people who are coaching, is that when somebody is triggered or activated, that shows a person where there is an unmet emotion or wound or
mm,
story or
mm, mm,
experience that, and I use the word healed, maybe integrated is the word. There's an
mm,
unintegrated story, experience, emotion, or wound that is asking to be integrated. So even if somebody has a negative response to something that you have said, how about we start to celebrate that? Because that has given that
mm.
person an opportunity to do the work to integrate, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, every time I'm triggered, and I've been triggered quite a lot recently, I've just been, okay, I'm going to just sit with what this feeling is, which is actually pretty uncomfortable, but
Mm.
I know I can do uncomfortable things. So I, just sit with it. And then, just forgotten what I was going to say. Mm. What did you say, Susie?
That it's an opportunity to integrate whatever
Mm.
the story, wound,
Yeah, thank
experience
you.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. So every time there's a trigger and I'm feeling something and it's like uncomfortable, it's like, okay, this is coming up because there's something in here for me to learn about. This isn't
Mm.
coming up. My body is not making me feel uncomfortable to work against me. It's working for me, always working for me. And this interaction with, I don't believe that things happen for no reason. So this interaction, this trigger, this experience is there for my evolution, for my growth,
Mm.
and seeing things that way is so helpful, because then it's like, okay, the universe isn't working against me. This person isn't, even necessarily knowing that they're triggering me, but this is just about me and me, and what can I learn here about me and me, so that I get to know myself more, and then I am able to be much more grounded and present in myself, rather than reacting to everything all the time. So, does that answer? I think that
Yeah,
answers it, doesn't it?
I'm curious about what are the lessons that have been presenting themselves to you of late.
Mm, mm. Um, I've had one where I've felt kind of jealous.
Mm.
And jealousy is really horrible, and it can send you spiraling into all kinds of thoughts, which are basically quite self-sabotaging. Yeah, I've just sort of sat with, oh, this is interesting that I'm feeling jealous around this particular experience, and the jealousy is like an old thing. It's not even actually real with what's happening
Mm.
now. But just not rushing to try and make myself feel better, but just acknowledging, this is what jealousy is. I haven't felt this for a really long time, and this is really, I can feel it in it's visceral,
Mm.
and it's deep, and it's old. And then just thinking, when did I feel this? Oh, well, I felt it a lot when I was growing up. When
Mm.
there was like my brother was getting the things that I wanted, or the attention that I wanted, or whatever it might be, or a past boyfriend was, you know, giving eyes to my best friend or something, like there are triggers all over the place for things like that. And then feeling it again in my body and just being like aware of it and noticing what the sensation in my body and attaching the emotion to it and going in, leaning into what is there rather than running away from it. And then just seeing like, so much of this is just a story that I make up in my head. The reality is there's nothing actually going on here that I need to be jealous about, but I've been triggered, so I can learn from that experience and I can feel where it sits in my body and, and just sort of acknowledge myself, because we can acknowledge when we're feeling joyful and amazing, but it's much harder to acknowledge those more uncomfortable feelings and how they land in the body. So, but I do believe that the more we can be with the whole entirety of ourselves, every single part of the humanness that we are, including the really messy bits, it's very empowering. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was really beautiful, because I was really proud of the way that I responded to this situation. And I looked at the way that I was dealing with it and I was like, wow, I'm really grown up. I'm really, I've really dealt with this situation with a lot of integrity and absolute alignment to myself, and not in reaction, not from a place of trigger, but from a place of worked through it in myself. It's only about me. And then that's had a really good impact in the situation because I wasn't being like really jealous. I was saying I'm feeling a lot and I'm just going to sit with my feelings for a bit and just processing what's come up for me. I felt very grown up.
I mean, well done. I'm going to give you that teenage self a gold star for
Thank
showing
you.
up as
I
a
take
grown
it.
up. Yeah. I mean, there's a few things in there that feel really important. When the removal of the judgment and what you said about jealousy and many of the challenging emotions that we feel, there's nothing wrong with the emotion. It's the meaning that we give it and the story that we give to these feelings that can compound the experience of the emotion and put us in a place where we want to resist it or push it away or suppress it. And I think from an infinite receiving perspective, this is the pillar of greatness as well. It's when you're fully aligned to the frequency of your greatness, regardless of what is going on in your external circumstances, somebody else's attention, somebody else's gaze, or whatever's happening in the experience, when that is removed from you, you don't feel less than. You still know who you are. And I think that what you said about your willingness to sit with the experience, it's not about if I am tapped into, I need to tap myself into the pillar of greatness in order to never feel jealousy or never feel. That's your reward for sitting, feeling, integrating. Feeling, integrating, and then remembering, fucking hell, there is nothing that can take away from the magnificence of me. And I see your magnificence and your magnificence and their magnificence. We're all fucking great. Like all of that is part of the cycle. And I think that
And I think the way that plays out in your life, in your like day-to-day life, is like by sitting with that jealousy and by feeling it and acknowledging it and not reacting and just allowing myself to process what's there and everything. It then what then the outcome, I suppose, is that I didn't create a big drama, which I would have done in the past. And that drama would have caused quite a lot of harm to me, upset, potentially broken a relationship or a few, whatever. None of that happened.
yeah,
Actually, what happened was just some communication, some acknowledgement, and that's it. It's done.
yeah.
And so it's like there's that inner peace.
How do you think that breath work and your own journey with the breath has supported you in this part of the journey, because my own experience with breathwork is that often I'm taken to places where I'm accessing emotions and feelings that I have no idea where they've come from or like how long they've been there, but they are there in the session and I just have to breathe with them. And so I'm curious about, you know, when people talk about yoga on the mat and off the mat, this feels like maybe one of the byproducts of learning to be with your emotions on the mat in a breathwork session, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's also just being aware of the breath in a moment. Like, okay, I'm in this experience where I'm feeling jealous, something's happened, and then just noticing like what is my breath doing right now, and then how is that either supporting me or how is it showing me something, and then just being so it kind of brings the breath brings you very much to presence. And then in that presence, it's like, okay, so I'm breathing really rapid because I'm feeling really stressed. Okay, I'm feeling really tense in my chest all of a sudden. I'm just going to breathe into that and be with that for a moment. And then as I breathe into it, what starts to happen is my body starts to release the emotion. And that's like taking the lid off the pressure cooker. You know, there's been this like building of intensity and of a feeling of discomfort in my body, but as I allow that to move through with the breath awareness and being present of what my breath is doing, and I'm breathing into it, the emotion comes up, and then I find, okay, I'm having a cry, my body's shaking a bit because there's some fear releasing or whatever, and so just let my body in its innate wisdom do what it needs to do, and trust that is me dealing with it in a powerful way. And then so I think the breath is amazing like that in your day to day, just having this awareness. And then obviously doing the breath work, like more transformational experiences with conscious connected breath, which is what I use in groups and with my clients and things, is, yeah, it's just that powerful way that the breath has to bring your inner and outer worlds together, to bring your every experience you've ever had that's held in your body up and out for it to be healed. You know, if we think every single time we've ever had a shock, whether that was falling over and hurting your knee or burning yourself with the iron, or you know, anything bigger, a childhood slap around the face, or you know, a sexual abuse or anything, something happened in our breath. We held our breath every single time. You know, you fall over and you go like that, don't you? There's always something in the breath. So every time you experience breath work, any of those things that's held in the body could come up. And we never know what's going to come, which is also the magic of it. Like, what am I ready for? Let's let the breath bring that to me right now.
The visual I get, and it's beautiful because I've never had breath work broken down for me in this way, so thank you very much. But the visual I get when you say everything is happening in the breath, we have that gasp. The breath always has to go somewhere. And so when I talk about energetic shift and somatic shift, it's knowing that how I see it almost as the experience which I hold in the gasp is then some of it, maybe not all of it, but a portion of it is transmuted into my cells, into the heart, into the stomach, into wherever. And that is where the memory, you know, when people are like, why can't I think my way out of this? It's because it's living in you sent it to your liver because that was going to be the safest place for you to never have to experience that kind of wounding, hurt ever again. Like, that's why you can't think your way out of it. That's really quite something.
Yeah, because emotions are energy in motion, so, and they are in the body. And so that, of course, we have to go to the body to transmute it. And also the very interesting thing about the breath is that it's so many things. Like, it's functional, it is energetic, It is physical, it is emotional, it is spirit, it
Yeah.
is it is your inner and your outer. It's the thing that connects us to each other, because as you breathe out, I breathe in, and as I breathe out, you breathe in. So it's almost like this supportive thing. It's so linked to the nervous system and the cardiovascular system and every system. Not that I really like calling the body in systems and parts, but it's all there, connected to this life force. Without it, none of this is happening anymore.
I am curious, and maybe I don't know whether this is a technical question or not, but I was thinking about emotion and the way that you described the emotion moving through you when you breathe. I think that often in my life, I have used the breath to suppress.
Mm,
And so when you talk about it might not be as instinctive as the gasp, but like that moment when you feel the tears about to come and it doesn't feel like an appropriate time, and it's like,
mm,
okay, I'm going to breathe
mm,
just to
mm,
calm myself down.
mm,
And so I'm
mm,
curious about whether we need to consciously give ourselves permission to use the breath as a carrier for those
mm,
emotions, because I think
mm,
that I can still very much use it as to suppress rather than to support.
mm. But I think there's times where we need to be able to do that, because there are times where, we don't want to burst into tears, because that's makes us feel way too vulnerable, and it feels really inappropriate, and it's like I don't actually want to be sharing what I'm feeling right now because I'm in a meeting at the bank.
Yeah.
So, and I think that is, again, something very beautiful about it, is that we can use it to just calm things down, to down regulate the nervous system when things are getting all like, they're coming up, or we can down regulate, because we can use it both ways, because it is that pivot point. It is that central part of us where the in and the out meet, so the up and the down. So
Yeah.
things are coming up and we want to down regulate it. And sometimes we want things to come up, so we bring it up. It's why it's just this incredible tool that is, I'm so glad that, it's becoming so popular, because it's a way of us supporting ourselves. And I think in that moment when you're feeling stuff and you're using your breath to suppress it, that's all right, because it's all right for us to create safety in the body and think, this doesn't feel all right to have that level of emotion coming up right now. I just had it the other day. I went and met one of my dad's friends, and we had lunch together, and it was the first time I'd connected with someone that knew my dad really well, since my dad died 4.5 years ago. And he was asking me he was kind of saying, what happened to your dad? Like, where did he go? We were such good friends for 40 years, and then he's disappeared. So I was telling him what I think happened, and it was really emotional, because I haven't needed to talk about this to someone that knew him. So I could feel that I was getting really emotional, but he's like my dad's age, and he's a sir, he's got an OBE and stuff. So it just didn't feel like, I didn't feel really safe, or it didn't feel appropriate for me to get really emotional. He could probably hear the emotion, but so again, like you, I was just using my breath to like slow things down and just create that safety in my body, so that I could be kind of in control of my communication, because that felt right. It didn't feel safe to start crying. It didn't feel appropriate really in that situation. So I think we can trust ourselves, you know.
How did you find the breath or the breath find you?
Mm. Um, do you know, I find that really hard to remember. I mean, I've worked with the breath a lot over the years when I've been doing, the somatic healing stuff with clients, and teaching people to use the breath when they're working with people. Um, I don't know. When I found the breath to start training in it and experiencing it in a sort of transformational way was just very, very soon after my dad died. So almost 5 years ago. And I I was grieving him, but I wasn't like going and having therapy, and nothing was feeling like it was going to connect me to what I was trying to find to heal myself with. And then I found the breath, and I don't know, I probably saw like an advert for something on Facebook, and just thought, oh, that looks interesting. I'll give that a go, because I didn't really know what it was. I knew about breathing and I knew how we could use the breath, but I didn't know that there was such a thing as a sort of practice, a breath work practice that you do regularly to heal trauma. And then it connected me so strongly to my dad's death. And I had this like profound experience where suddenly his breath was my breath. I was breathing his dying breath, and I was breathing it, and I was feeling it move through my body. And I realized that he gave me life, so he gave me the breath, and that I was always going to be connected to him through the breath, and also through my living a life. And yeah, and just then learning the science behind it all, and the interconnection between the nervous system and the cardiovascular system and everything else in the body has just been, it's almost like a missing piece for me, who's so curious about the body.
Yeah.
So it was another thing that, yeah, has just been completely life changing, and really helped me heal a lot, actually. A lot, like, 48 years of difficult relationship that I had with my dad has helped me really find such deep love, and to feel love through this process of grieving for him through the breath. So yeah, it was very powerful, and probably why I'm so passionate about sharing it with people, because it's just moved so much in me. And then on the other end of the spectrum, sexually and with sexual abuse and things as well, it's been an incredibly powerful tool to connect to my body when it wasn't safe for me to connect to my body before. So
I'm curious around the sexual side of things, because I don't necessarily, I mean, obviously you have your event. What's your event called?
the seismic orgasmic breath.
Yes, seismic orgasmic breath. I don't know how much sexuality is involved in your work on a daily basis outside of that event, but what feels true, having known you now, I don't know, 8 years, 9 years, maybe even a little bit longer, for sure there has been a deeper connection to your sexuality and your sensuality over the later years. So, yay, go you. And I believe that the breath has had a role to play in that. So I'm curious to hear more about that part of your journey.
I do work with people on a daily basis around this stuff, but it's not always wrapped up in seismic orgasmic breath. It's actually often to do with shame and suppression and lack of feeling, and the inability to receive or open up to pleasure, and all those things that so many people, whatever gender, are experiencing in their bodies, because so many of us were taught to shut down our pleasure sensors, or whatever in the body, or ways that we regulated ourselves through touch or sucking our thumbs or things like that. So a lot of my work seems to be more and more going that way, and I think there's something in my energy and the safety that I create for people that is drawing that to me more and more. Like I'll have someone come to me for a breath work, and they think that we're going to be breathing into how they feel anxious, and all of a sudden they're like experiencing some big pleasure moving through their body, and they're opening up to bliss. So I seem to be weirdly attracting that without really sort of meaning to in some way, but that's a great thing. I think how breath has Well, if I think about sexual trauma or even, domestic abuse and things like that, there was that thing where I held my breath, or I was breathing hard and fast because I was super anxious and super stressed, so I couldn't breathe properly. Um, so by learning about the breath, and when I mean learning, I don't just mean like studying it. I mean really learning it in my own body, like embodying it, connecting to my breath and what it's teaching me and the memories that are there. And I've used that again and again and again and again to again lean into what's there, to what feels uncomfortable, to the memories, because I know that if I want to be my fullest expression of myself in life, I don't want to hold myself back from feeling. And for many, many years, I wasn't able to feel my body at all. So I wasn't able to have pleasure because I couldn't even feel my skin. If I rubbed my skin, I couldn't feel it anymore. So I've had to use, well, not I had to, I've chosen to use the breath, which, as we know, moves the sort of chemistry, the physiology, it moves the hormones, it connects the nervous system. The breath is this thing that literally is sort of working with all of our organs and our whole being, our cells. It's all there. So when we start working with the breath, it brings stuff up for us to heal and feel and release and receive. It's all there. So that's what I've done, and it's I think it's a kind of, I was definitely ready for it and looking for something, and then I think that it's also been quite like almost like a fast track.
Yeah.
Because I think with talking therapies and things, they of course they have a place, but like we have to feel things, and we have
Yeah.
to feel things and feel safe to feel things. So the breath can bring that, and did for me, and quite quickly. So quite quickly, I've moved into this whole new space of embodiment and feeling sexually and sensually awake and empowered, and but not in like a crazy way, but I mean, can be quite juicy and crazy, but I'm quite embodied in it as well. I've got safety in my body again. That's the beautiful thing. It's safe for me to feel things again. And it
Beautiful.
makes me emotional because so many people are walking around so disconnected, and you'll find this in your coaching. Sometimes when people are really in their heads and they can't get into their body because it's not safe to, and then the breath can be great for that, but also we have to work with a speed that people are ready to sort of heal at as well. And sometimes we have to work with them being in their heads, but we can bring some breath into that, I think, as well.
Yeah. Beautiful. Do you have a personal breath work practice? I
Mm.
hear that it is really an embodiment and an incorporation of you connecting with the breath moment by moment as
Mm.
frequently as you remember to. But do you have
Mm.
a breath work practice on a daily basis?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. When I wake up in the morning, I do some conscious connected breath work for sometimes only 3 minutes, sometimes longer, depending on what my day is looking like. But 3 minutes is actually long enough to move things through.
What is that? If
Um,
people are listening and don't know what conscious
mm.
connected breath work is, what is that?
It's a breathing practice that you do where you connect the breath at the top and the bottom. So usually when your listeners are listening to this now, they'll be breathing and they'll breathe in and there'll be a pause and there'll be a breathe out and there'll be a pause. That's our natural kind of rhythm. There's a pause at each end and we'll be breathing through our noses, ideally, because that's the natural, healthy way for us to be breathing through the nose. This practice, you can do it through the nose or you can do it with an open mouth. And it's basically, if you imagine the ocean and you're watching the tide and it's coming in and going out, it never stops. It's always moving. So we do that with the breath. We breathe in and out. So it's just constantly flowing in and out, like just moving through like an energy, the river moving through your system. And so you're consciously connecting your breath.
Why is that so
And what I
powerful?
what I find really interesting, it's powerful because we are working with the breath. We're choosing to do something else. So we're choosing to use our breath in a different way, and it's powerful because um, it's like activating the autonomic nervous system. It's activating fight or flight, and it's activating the parasympathetic nervous response. So to put that in other language, it's activating that response in us where we get stressed
I'm in
and want
command
to
state.
run or freeze. Yeah, and then it's also activating the resting and digesting and repairing part of us.
So
So
does
the
that
inhale is the
create
yeah, sorry.
confusion for the body? And it's in the confusion and the chaos of, am I stressed? I'm calm. I'm stressed. I'm calm. I'm stressed. I'm calm. That the stuff finds it easier to make its way to the surface. Is that what's happening?
I like that. It's a nice question. I don't know if I don't know. I think it's just you are you're kind of creating some sort of balance point in the body because you're doing both. You know, we're not like hyperventilating, we're not hypoventilating. We are in a sort of in a rhythm that is natural to our body because our body knows how to breathe us in different ways. We can also trust that. And we all have a different breathing rhythm, which is a bit like our fingerprint. No one breathes the same. So, but when we inhale and exhale in different ways, we're just creating different movements of pathways in the body, I think. And because we're activating and decelerating and activating and decelerating, it just creates this, like the figure of eight, to me, I look at it like that. It creates this sort of as above, so below. So it's all of us, you know. But you wouldn't want to do that for ages, you know, and ideally you'll do it in a with guidance as well if you're doing it for longer, but for 3 minutes it's safe for people to do. I mean, now I want to go off into a whole kind of contraindication thing and start teaching about breath work, which I don't think we want to go
So I
there.
think what we want to say is, I don't know what to say if in doubt because you're going to correct me there, but always make sure that you get support from a medical advisor. How do we feel about that? Do we feel comfortable in saying that?
Yeah, I just think if you're under the care of a doctor for anything and taking medication, breathe through your nose. That would be the
Okay.
quickest way. Yeah. And even, you know, if you're already breathing through your mouth a lot of the time because your body is already in a stress response, just see if you can breathe for 3 minutes with your mouth closed. And that might feel like you're suffocating, and then that's interesting. And then maybe reach out and get some breathwork support from someone who does it professionally and that can guide you through functional breathing because most people aren't breathing functionally, and learning how to breathe functionally is very powerful in itself, you know.
And
So
when you
yeah, but
say
it's good to explore it.
functionally breathing, do you mean breathing the way that the body would be breathing if we were not completely stressed and in the top 10% of our lungs all the time? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also just born into a stressful environment and getting into a um, habitual way of breathing, you know, because we're such creatures of habit, aren't we? That also shows up in the breath. And just things like, you know, if you're very controlling, you probably control your breath quite a lot. You know, and then that gets really interesting. I was just working with a group of breathers the other day, and they were talking about how they had noticed in the breathwork practice they couldn't let go of control, so they
Yeah.
couldn't surrender some of the exhales and things that they were doing, and then they were explaining, well, that's kind of how I am in my life. And I was like, yeah, because the breath is going to show you how you function, and how you function is going to show you what's happening with your breath, so they kind of mirror each other.
So you do 3 minutes of conscious connected breathing in the morning. Anything else?
Mm. Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm doing something called the presence process, which is 15 minutes of breath work twice a day. It's a book, I've got it actually there, by Michael Brown, I think it is, The Presence Process. It's quite intense. But I'm doing that, and then probably once, sometimes twice a week, I'll do a breathwork kind of experience, either online or in person, but mostly online at the moment. But then, if I'm lucky, I get to go to someone's breathwork in person, which is beautiful.
I think it's one of the modalities that I have used that I think that I notice so much of a distinct difference breathing with other people. And I
Mm,
think it's more the breathing with other people in the same room versus it being
mm,
online versus in person. But there's
mm,
something that happens that enables me when I'm breathing with other people for me to drop in more deeply.
mm.
I find it more
Yeah.
challenging online.
It's pretty incredible, isn't it? Because you end up having this your own embodied experience of something that's moving through you, but you also have like the collective experience of what's moving through, which is actually what we're all experiencing all the time. But when we go into a breathwork practice, we have so much more awareness of that because we're in this little bubble of this beautiful group, and there's all this safety for us to be ourselves. But again, that's so lovely, isn't it? That sort of inner connection, and then that connection to everyone else around you that's breathing. And it really connects people. I've seen people become lifetime friends from
Yeah.
just doing one breathwork practice together and sharing that experience. So again, that to me is just like, when we can create more love in the world and more connection with each other, it's so powerful. That's what we need more of.
Yeah.
Mm,
100%. For those people, oh, actually, I'm actually curious to hear. You just said about the book and that being intense. What are you getting from it, and why is it intense?
it's a really different way of breathing because there's like kind of um, there's like a prompt. I don't know if it's an affirmation. It is kind of an affirmation that you breathe. So every word in the prompt or affirmation, you breathe in and out with each word. So it's kind of, I personally find that quite hard. I find myself majorly drifting off and thinking about other things, and then the words become other words, and then I get a bit obsessed about the fact I'm not doing it right, and then I forget that I'm meant to be breathing. It's all like that. I'm
So you're
sure
not very
lots of people are
present.
like, really, really, yeah. It's like, oh, but then what it is doing is bringing me to so much more presence in my daily experience. And yeah, I guess when I was talking about the jealousy thing earlier, I'm actually thinking about it now. Partly maybe having been doing this for a while has deepened that for me. But obviously, I've done a lot of this work for decades, so who knows what's happening when? But it's just challenging. It's quite challenging to find the time to do
Yeah.
15 minutes morning and evening. The reality is that is really hard. Very easy for me to skip,
Yeah.
find other, and then I realize that I'm resisting
Yeah.
and avoiding. So
And why are
yeah,
you doing that?
exactly. Who knows? Lazy, just like rather sit down and I don't know, eat some chocolate. I mean, who knows?
Natasha, what are you excited about? What's coming up
Mm.
that's kind of tickling your fancy?
I'm feeling really excited about things at the moment. I've really purposefully worked on really acknowledging what's so good in my life and how much everything I've wanted has come to me. And so just I'm really making that a practice at the moment. And that is creating a lot of excitement for what's coming next because I'm like, okay, everything I've wanted has come to me. So I have evidence that that's going to keep happening. So what I'm excited about is doing loads of breath work with as many people as I can in as many countries as I can, and taking the seismic orgasmic breath globally because because I've just seen so much healing happen for people. And I have seen people having, like, you know, sexual and sensual experiences, but it's more than that. It really is about that connection to self and where you have suppressed yourself. So that feels so important to me. So I'm excited about getting opportunities to take that places, and creating opportunities to take that places. And I'm excited about, I've got a 9 month experience that I'm going to be doing for the first. I've never done this before for women, which I've never ever done that before, like made it gender specific, but it's called the Potent Woman, and I'm excited about that. I feel deeply connected to that being like my purpose at the moment.
Amazing. When
And
does it start?
it starts in February. Yeah, and I'm also like starting to have ideas for a book and a screenplay.
Oh,
Yeah, which I mean, I need to create time for, and I'm noticing that I'm dragging my heels with creating the time for it, but I do feel a sense of excitement building for those projects.
okay. Really
Yeah.
good.
Mm,
Really, really, really good.
mm.
Okay, well, I am excited to be sharing this episode. Part of this is because we are going live with my second book, Infinite Receiving. And I have 6 questions that I ask all of my guests, which I would love to ask you. And
Great.
so the first question is, what does infinite receiving mean to you?
Hmm. What does infinite receiving? It is, what I feel in my body as you ask me that is I get a kind of sensation or an image of myself just like unfurling and opening up, and not protecting, and not having that sort of fear or doubt or lack of self trust that things are always going to work out for me. It's like, yeah, it's just really opening myself up to more receiving. And in that infinite receiving is also the component of giving, I think. So, yeah. Mm. Being ready for more, being allowed more.
How good are you at it?
It's a work in progress, but it's definitely much better than it ever has, probably at the best stage of it so far. And there's more coming, I know.
Always more.
So, yeah.
Where or who in your life right now could you allow to love you a little bit more?
Well, what comes up is my sibling relationships. Yeah, where there's a little bit of guarded, kind of old, dynamics still needing to shift.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that of course starts with me.
It does indeed. What is your greatest attribute?
Well, I had wisdom come through, but then it was like mischief.
Wise mischief.
Yeah, mischievous wisdom.
I'll take that. And where or who in your life could you allow in some more support?
Where or how could I allow him more support? Mm,
Sorry, that's
sorry.
my child's school.
Um, Mm. That's so interesting that I'm feeling stuck on that question, isn't it? That's telling me
Says
a
it all.
lot,
Do you know what,
doesn't it?
Natasha? Can
Gotta
I
go.
take this call and then I will come back to you and we'll finish this
Yeah, yeah.
off?
Yeah,
Sorry, my
sure.
love.
Don't
I'm going to
worry, it's
finish it
fine.
and I'll
Yeah, it's
come
your
back.
kid's school, sure.
Thank you.